Welcome back to the Whole Nine Yards here. Drew Pien and Brandon Krikorian on a Sunday night. Currently halftime of the Chicago and Green Bay game. Brandon, how's it going?
Good because my team won, but if we look at our predictions for this week, just some tough luck going my way and some good luck that went your way.
For sure. This was at maybe about 3 p.m. There were multiple times throughout today where I was like, wow, this will be the week that we look back, and this will probably be the week that makes me lose a season. But I get a couple just in pretty lucky breaks. To start the Atlanta game, Falcons Panthers. That was the game that didn't matter. We both picked Atlanta, and Atlanta ended up
Yeah,
being the better team in that game. But Giants Chargers. Chargers ended up just blowing out the Giants, so not a great pick by me. Uh,
they did have a chance to almost
they yeah
cover though.
yeah they did, but you end up getting that game. I almost had a very very lucky break. I would have been insanely lucky had I covered that
Oh yeah,
Washington game, Cowboys Washington. I would have covered had the extra point not been blocked and had they got that 2 point conversion. I would have covered. It would have been twenty seven
yeah,
23.
yeah,
So that's I
yeah.
was gonna text you. I was like, well, technically Washington still has a chance to come back, but they ended up not. So you get that. But well, Bills Bucks. That game was a blowout in the beginning, for
Yeah.
sure. A blowout in the beginning. I thought it was over. Like I was like, all right, I'm chilling. Bills end up coming back. And it went into overtime, and the Bills get the ball first, and I'm like, all right, well, when I saw that, I was like, I probably lose. I probably lose because if the Bills win, obviously they win. If the Bills punt, then there's no reason to score a touchdown unless the defense literally just gives you no other option.
Yeah.
And Brady ends up looking off. Edmonds gets Perriman on a crossing route, and he takes it all the way to the house. So I end up getting the win there, which is huge because if you get that win, then I'm looking at then if you get that win and then also the 49ers don't get a not lucky, but
Yeah.
if the 49ers don't win that game, I'm looking at like a 1-4 week. I'm looking at a one and
Yeah.
four week.
If anything, a 2 and 3 week.
Yeah, if anything went your way this week, I probably would be one. I deserve to be 1-4. I got too cute trying to pick Washington and picking them to win that game. I shouldn't have done that, and I got cute picking the Giants too. I should never bet on the Giants until they find like a normal quarterback and probably get rid of Joe Judge. I'm just never going to touch him again. And Washington, I don't know why I had faith in Washington to win this game. I had faith in Heineke playing a clean game. He definitely didn't. I like Washington somehow doesn't even have a team name. Like I can't bet on a team if they literally like I don't care if you get rid of the Redskins name, that's whatever to me. Sure, like if it's bad, it's bad, whatever, get rid of it. But like how has it been so long that you don't have a team name? So to me,
Yeah.
I can't touch the Washington football team anymore because I don't know. This was a huge game. They're at home. I know it was almost like an away game watching that game, but you're at home. You should have won that game. I should not have bet on that game, but to be 3-2 after this week to me is like I'm taking it like 3-2 to me that's huge for me. And you're probably gonna go. You're 2-1 right now technically. It's halftime of Chicago Green Bay, so we'll find out what happens there. It's
Yeah, as long as they don't get outscored
by a lot.
by 19 points, and they don't. I mean, just I'm not scoring. It should cover. But
But honestly,
Bears.
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't cover this.
Oh
I'm
no, I
just
wouldn't be. I wouldn't be either. They put up 27 points, which that even may be like a season high for them. But it's somehow obviously some of that was pretty lucky. I mean, you get the long touchdown on the like a slant, and then you get a punt return touchdown from 97 yards. So obviously some of that was pretty lucky. But they put up 27 points. I mean, I did not expect that to happen at all. But just the other two games, I looked at the scores when it was 20-13 Niners and it was 27-17 Bucks. And I was like, all right, I'm in perfect position to cut for. Obviously, I didn't have the Bengals game, but obviously wanting you to lose that one, I was in perfect position for both because a touchdown from the Bills gets to 3, exactly what they did. Bengals get a touchdown basically at the end of the game to tie it. So I'm thinking, all right, that game goes to OT. Bengals get the ball first too, which was crazy. They get a field goal. So I'm thinking, all right, if anything, you just can't give up a touchdown because it was -1.5 San Francisco or whatever it was. So you just can't give up a touchdown. I don't care if it ends in a tie. If obviously the Bengals win, of course they get a touchdown. Kittle makes an insane play, of course. I don't understand how the Bengals weren't doubling Kittle that entire OT because you knew the ball was going to him every single time, and they just kept doing man to man. It was just ridiculous. Terrible one there. But the Bills one, I wish they would have just lost by 20 points because for them to come back, tie the game, go to OT, get the ball first, and then lose like that was just I couldn't even believe it, honestly. All they had, again, you're right, Tampa, all they had to do was get a field goal, and of course they get a touchdown. Like, of course they get a 58-yard touchdown. It was just
Yeah, I
wasn't the
don't think I've
tournament.
ever been more like anxious when I saw Perriman start to break away from Edmonds on that crossing route because had Edmonds made that tackle, it's over. Like I either we're not scoring. Tampa's probably not scoring a touchdown. They're
Yeah, they're
probably
getting a field goal.
They're running 3 times and kicking the field goal, and then I'm 2-3, and then you're on the track to probably 4-1, and and then I'm down a good amount, and I have to climb myself out of another hole. But yeah, huge play from Brady. I mean Brady set that play up to me, so but it's huge for me because yeah, I mean I this should be a 1-4 week for me, and to come out 3-2. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful.
And especially if the Bears cover tonight, that's gonna kill me because it would have been huge to have them. Because I was almost expecting this to be a loss. So if they do cover and then have the Bills game go that way, it hurts because you're right. I was probably looking at like a 4-1 week, but um, yeah, that's not the case obviously. So I can only hope for 3-2, but I don't know. It hurts because it should have been a better week.
Yeah, and for the Bills, to like you were talking about in the comeback, to come back from down 20 to climb all the way back out of this into this game. This was a game you knew you pretty much had to have a legitimate shot for the division. It's still there, but it's a puncher's chance. Like it's a Hail Mary at this
Yeah,
point for
now
the division, I
it's
think.
yeah, you have to win next week,
Yeah.
which or 2 weeks, whatever it is. But yeah,
I mean, you pretty much you almost have to potentially even win out, arguably.
yeah,
Yeah, to come all the way back to get the ball first and to still lose, and then for after that for Josh Allen to come out in a walking boot for the press conference. Listen,
yeah,
I don't. I mean, this is anecdotal, but I can't even think of. I'm not even gonna be able to mention like an example, but when there's a loss like this in almost what feels like a playoff game, and it's a hard fought battle all the way to the end, and you just lose barely, and it's a tough loss. And the press conference, your best player, one of your best players, comes out with a walking boot on. You know the series is. You know you're done. Like I'm honestly done with the Bills. Listen, I think they're still a good team, but I I think the Patriots are going to win the. I've predicted the Patriots to win the division, but now I'm like completely dead set on it. Like I would be shocked if the Bills somehow made a comeback to get this division. I think the Bills are kind of cooked. I think they maybe out of gas. We'll see if they're out of gas or not, but I think they may be. It honestly kind of reminds me of Jimmy Butler in the LA series. I'm in the finals. Obviously, he didn't come out in a walking boot, but it was that one press conference. I think it might have been after Game 4, after Game 5, maybe.
Game 4 was
Um,
his good game, so I would
I think it
assume
was
that
after
one.
Game 4. Um, he was like trying to get. He was getting to the press conference like area or whatever, and he was like clearly just so destroyed, like taxed. He was so cooked that series that like even coming off a huge win, you knew like they're done. Like Jimmy Butler has nothing left in the tank with all the injuries they've dealt with. Tre'Davious White on the Bills. That's like the parallel that I draw with this Bills team. I think they're done. I think you could probably draw that same parallel with the Ravens now at this point. Obviously, we don't know what happened to Lamar Jackson yet, but I mean, even if Lamar Jackson's completely healthy still and he's like day to day, which I doubt, he's probably done for multiple weeks, maybe the year. Um, they've dealt with so many injuries too that I'm out on them. The AFC is crazy. I mean, we kind of saw we may now have the new team to beat with what we saw the Chiefs do this week, but I'm out on the Bills. I've kind of been out on them, but I'm out on the Bills for sure now. I'm honestly, listen, I was kind of not holding out hope the Ravens would be good, but I was potentially thinking the Ravens may still be in it. I think they're done now. Like, even, Lamar out now, they're for sure done if Lamar's not coming back. But even with Lamar, they may still be done too. So,
Yeah, I think the AFC is down to only two teams, unless Henry comes back. But even still, I don't think Tennessee's a real contender. It's between New England and Kansas City. It's they're going to end up in the 1-2 most likely. Obviously, they're both 9-4, but it's probably going to be them as the 1-2, whatever way it is. It's whoever is coming out of the AFC, I believe, is those two teams. And honestly, I may go Chiefs right now. Obviously they dominated in today's win, but I feel like the experience from just the quarterback position and like unless let's say they meet in a championship game, unless the Patriots' running game and defense is just spectacular, I don't really see them winning. I just would believe the Chiefs' offense, Mahomes, would be able to outplay Jones. And, obviously, if your running game isn't up to where you need it to be in a game like that, you need Jones to make plays, and that's something they haven't really done so far this year. So, I mean, obviously, you're going to have thoughts on that. But I would, if they were to meet in a championship game right now, I would pick the Chiefs to win that game.
yeah, if the AFC Championship game right now is between Pats Chiefs, it started tomorrow. Obviously, assuming the Chiefs get well, next week or whatever,
Yeah.
soon, I would pick the Chiefs as well. I think right now, listen, people doubted the Chiefs' offense. I think maybe not us, but people. I don't know why. I know they struggled for a good amount of time, but listen, there's no blueprint to figuring out Mahomes. There's no blueprint. There's no just absolute blueprint to figuring out this Chiefs offense. They're gonna get their yards. They're gonna get their big plays. Even if you try to prevent it as much as possible, trying to shut down Kelsey as much as you can by keep a safety over the top for Hill. They're gonna find their ways. They're gonna make their plays. I think the Chiefs are the team to beat, and I think they will be the team to beat all the way up until I eventually believe the Patriots will beat them in the AFC Championship game. But I think home field advantage is going to make a huge difference, and that's essentially we got what 4 more games left. Wait, no,
Yeah.
4 more games. Yeah, 4 more games left. Uh, so we're going to see who gets the 1 seed between the Pats and the Chiefs. I obviously have picked the Patriots since the start of the year. I still have faith in the Patriots to win that game whenever they do play. But if the Chiefs do get home field, I would pick the Chiefs. If the Patriots get home field, I'll pick the Patriots. I think home field's huge. Arrowhead's an extremely difficult place to play for obvious reasons, for multiple reasons. And I think Gillette may not be as difficult as a place to play as Arrowhead, but, the Patriots' historical record at Gillette is what it is. It's not as daunting of a place as Arrowhead maybe, but it's one hell of a home field to have still. So, but yeah, I would agree with you. I'm down to 2 teams. I don't view the Titans, even with Henry. I think they can rattle off a couple wins like they did a couple years ago, but I don't think they're a good match. I don't think they match up well against the Chiefs. To me, the quarterback that really can't throw that well, the receiving core that's decent when healthy, but I don't love Julio. I mean, Julio's up there. AJ Brown to me is on the softer side of receivers, even though he's a rack guy, he's a run after catch guy. I still view him on like the more just kind of. I still view him as more on the softer side of receivers. There are other receivers that I prefer over Brown that many people would probably rank Brown over that receiver, but I don't love Brown. Henry to me is their team, it's their identity, and to have your identity after a running back in the playoffs is just I don't think it's a great idea. You're just not gonna play. You're not gonna be able to win 4 games with the running game dominating all 4 games and you playing ahead 10 to 14 points every game. It's just not a reality. So, yeah, I'm down. All that explanation is essentially me saying I agree with you. I'm down to 2 teams in the AFC.
Yeah, and people might bring up that the Titans beat the Chiefs. They blew them out. But again, that was earlier in the season. They're both different teams then. They're different teams now. Now and then obviously when it gets to the playoffs, they'll be different teams. So that means absolutely nothing in my mind. And yeah, we're on the same page. It's down to 2 teams in the AFC. It's the Patriots and the Chiefs. But just the games this week though. The Chiefs were a part of a 1 o'clock schedule that may have been the most boring 1 o'clock schedule of all
It's
time.
the worst. Yeah, it was bad.
It was the only good game I would say. Now I really only watched the Cowboys game, but obviously I saw the other games. But I guess the only other game that was somewhat interesting was the Ravens Browns game, which it really wasn't. The Browns basically blew it, and they probably should have lost, to be honest. The Ravens get an onside kick with a minute 10 left or whatever, and honestly, if they get 10 yards, if they get a first down, maybe even like 12 yards, they're in Tucker range. I don't know exactly what it would have been, but I can almost guarantee Tucker's making whatever field goal it was. So they almost they almost pulled that one out without Lamar, like you said. Who knows? They said it's just an ankle sprain, but some other people were saying it could be a high ankle sprain, which obviously that's multiple weeks. So we'll see. But again, they're done anyways. It doesn't really matter for playoffs wise. But yeah, the other games, I mean, again, the Cowboys game, that was a blowout till the end, so kind of similar to the Browns game, not as close, but still there. Titans defeat the Jaguars 20-0. There were reports about the Jaguars. Urban Meyer, we could probably touch on that. Chiefs put up 48 on the Raiders. The Raiders are done. That's clear. Saints beat the Jets. Falcons, Panthers, those are 2-0 teams anyways. Then Seahawks, Texans. Again, two basically nothing teams right now. So a lot of boring games. But I guess, do you have anything about the 1 o'clock window, or do you just want to move straight to the 4 o'clock, or do you want to touch on the Urban Meyer stuff?
Well, okay, so the 1 o'clock window, I'd agree, was the worst 1 o'clock window ever. The Cleveland Baltimore game, I think Cleveland deserved to lose that game, even though they had a pretty big lead and they were dominant throughout the first pretty much 55 minutes of that game. Baltimore ends up finding a way to come back. Tyler Huntley, honestly, just looks like I know people have said this. It's not a hot take, but he literally
2.0.
just looks like, huh?
Say 2.0, Lamar 2.0.
Yeah, Lamar 2.0, but instead of being like a 92 overall in Madden, he's probably like a 70 overall in Madden, but the same speed. So
Yeah.
like if you're playing Madden, honestly, it doesn't even matter. I'll give me either. I don't really care, but um yeah, I listen. I don't like either of these teams. I wanted to see Cleveland lose because I'm not a big Cleveland fan. I was very happy when Baltimore got when Baltimore got that onside kick. I was like, wow, Baltimore is gonna win this game. Um, Obviously, it doesn't end up working out that way. They can't get anything going on that last drive. Maybe Lamar would have made a difference there. Probably not, but yeah, the Urban Meyer stuff I think is interesting because I just don't know what Jacksonville does. Jacksonville's known for being not necessarily loyal to coaches, but not like Cleveland. They're not really. They have not historically been, even though they've been dysfunctional. They don't one and done fire their coaches typically, almost ever
Yep.
that I can think of. So to me, if Urban does get let go, I don't think he gets let go, is what I should say. I think if he leaves, it's probably on his own accord. He probably thinks, I can't do anything here. It's just got off on the wrong foot, never had a chance. I'll go take a year off or maybe go take a college job if there's one still available. Probably not, but or go take maybe another NFL job. I don't know, but I think it's interesting. My gut tells me he's back next year. But if he was fired, I wouldn't be surprised. Or if he was fired, I would be a little bit surprised. But if he decided to leave on his own accord, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't even listen. I know you get Lawrence there, and I know that's an attractive job because of Trevor Lawrence. But I mean, the NFL historically, even when dysfunctional franchises get these blue chip quarterbacks, we still see dysfunctional franchises beat dysfunctional franchises. So if I'm Urban Meyer and I'm a legendary college coach, and every year in the NFL there's at least pretty much 5 openings every year, is that the job you really wanted to take? Like there were arguably better jobs even that year. Like LA was probably a better job. I know maybe Lawrence is a better prospect than Herbert, maybe, but probably not. I mean, Herbert's probably just as good, if not better. Especially, I mean, at the time maybe you had him around at the same, but now right now you probably definitely take Herbert over Lawrence. So I don't know. I mean, all that Urban stuff. I don't even. I can't even tell you if somebody asked me like, do you think Urban's a good NFL coach? Like, do you think he can make it in the NFL? I wouldn't even know what to say because I just don't think it ever got off on the right foot with like the stuff at the club. after the Cincinnati loss back in Ohio. All the reports of the locker room essentially just not liking him. The incident with Marvin Jones. I I don't know, and I don't think we ever really got much of this in college. Like, I mean, you have to be liked by the players to be a good college coach because you're recruiting these guys, and college recruits are committing to the coach. I mean, we saw that with Oklahoma, that when Lincoln Riley leaves to USC, guess what? The people that committed to Oklahoma, a lot of them are probably recommitting to USC because of Lincoln Riley. So I don't know. It's surprising that Urban Meyer's that all the players don't like him. I thought if he wasn't going to make it in the NFL, it was purely because he's more of a college guy and more of a recruiter and just doesn't have the X's and O's to make it in the NFL. Not that like the players would just not like him by week 14 of his first season.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think in college it's different because, and I think they were saying it in the reports as well that when like in college you can kind of treat them as college students and college athletes because they are, while in the NFL I think he was trying to take that same mentality, and like obviously in the NFL you're dealing with the guys who are 30 years old, 32 years old, so they're not college kids, and then they've never been coached by some amazing coach, all-time coach. So I think it's different. I think he just doesn't have the right mentality for the NFL, which can he change? Maybe. I kind of agree. I don't think he's a great NFL coach. I think he's one of the best college coaches of all time. I mean, it's not even a question. But I think in the NFL there is a difference. I mean, Saban wasn't a good NFL coach, but he's the best college coach. So I think there's just it works like that with some guys, and then there's other guys who can adapt. But I would I be surprised if he got fired? No, but you're right. I mean, Doug Marrone was there for 4 years. Gus Bradley was there for 4 years, and again, those were times where they were 3-13 every single year. So I wouldn't be surprised if he got fired. But I think the owner, I think he does like him, so I think he probably stays. But I wouldn't be surprised if he got fired mid-season next year when they're 0-7 and Lawrence still isn't looking great, and the team is just has no confidence in him.
I feel bad for Trevor Lawrence, and every single year with the top quarterback prospect, we there's always the buzz about like, will this quarterback even allow this team to draft him? The Eli Manning, which essentially is all right, Chargers, or all right, number one pick or whatever. I'm just not going to play for you if you draft me. So you may as well look to trade this pick or draft somebody else, but I'm not playing. We talked about maybe Joe Burrow doing it with Cincinnati. He obviously didn't, and I think it makes sense because that was kind of his hometown team. But with Trevor Lawrence, I mean, I know nobody wants to be the guy that denies being the number one pick because of whatever reason. But I just think, listen, if I was Trevor Lawrence, I'm not playing for Jacksonville. I'm really not. I think Jacksonville is, if you had to, for me to pick the worst franchise in the NFL, I think I would go with Jacksonville. Even though Detroit's in the running, New York Jets are in the running, Houston Texans are in the running, I think everybody's pretty much seen more success than the Jaguars. And the Jaguars have had pretty much one good year as of recent, and it was the AFC Championship year. And even then, they were kind of a meme. Like, they blew with the Steelers in that game, but that was almost more of a fluke game than anything to me. You're just not. I mean, yeah, I don't know. To me, if you made me pick a worst franchise in the NFL, I'm going with Jacksonville. Maybe it's popular opinion, maybe it's not, but
No, I mean I think it would be there for most people. I think Detroit. You can't really say Cleveland anymore, but I guess yeah, Houston's there the last couple of years. But yeah, Jacksonville's for sure been there.
I mean, I think Cleveland's still up there. Like, listen, it's one of the best on paper rosters theoretically, like over the past couple of years, and you've never gotten it to work.
Well, no, but I think that's a different than I think that's different than like like looking at a franchise wise. I think that's just the team can't get together. Because at least they're still competitive and they have stability in their front office. And you can think what you want about Stefanski, but he's at least a stable head coach who's most likely going to be there for another couple of years unless like things really turn the other way. But like in Jacksonville, Detroit, you don't get that where you have a front office that's stable and knows what to do, and then a head coach who has the right mentality and knows how to rally a locker room behind them. So I think it's a little bit different, but I mean again it's kind of similar all in the end. But one side note, again, we're doing this during the Bears game. Packers score a touchdown coming out of halftime. They strip Fields, and then they score another touchdown. So now it's 35-27 Packers. So that game's probably heading towards the Packers putting up 50, and the Bears may not score again.
Well, that's an unfortunate break for you.
Well, honestly, at this point, I'd rather the Bears not cover. So it's whatever.
I I mean, I don't know why that you would want that, but
I just, it's just, I don't know. I feel like today just almost took me, even though I'm not out of it, I feel like today almost took me out of it. It's just the gut punch that you get from those two games just kill you. And then if the Bears can put up 27 points in the first half and then probably not score another touchdown the rest of the game, I just wouldn't be surprised. That's all.
yeah, this kind of was the 30-mile-an-hour winds in Buffalo, 30 degrees feels like 10 degrees, and I throw the ball 3 times and I beat you. So yeah, that's kind of what this week
No, it
feels like a
is.
little bit.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Maybe it's missing like the lucky breaks that I kind of got, but yeah, I mean, yeah, realistically, this should have been you going 4-1 and me going 1-4, and if I can go, I mean, I'm 3-2, and if you go end up going like 2-3, then yeah, that's a huge week for me.
And
So
then
right now
think
you're
about
two
it.
and one, right?
Yeah, I'm 2-1.
Okay,
But
so I mean, you're still not out. Like I don't know. I mean,
no, I'm not out of it, but it's a gut punch, like I said. But also think if you didn't switch your Packers pick again, let's just say the Packers win by more than 12 and a half, which it I feel like they will. I feel like the momentum and everything, but let's say they do, and you kept that pick, then you obviously take away a loss from you because the Giants pick, and then you get that. So it could have even been a better week for you, actually.
yeah, I should have taken Dallas. I mean, hindsight, obviously, but I'm just foolish for taking Washington. I think it's like the first time of the year I've bet on Washington and in these predictions. And I think this is the second time I've taken the Giants, maybe the third, second in a row, and it bites me in the butt again. So I'm done on the Giants. I'm done on Washington. But yeah, I mean, you can still go 4-1. You can still easily go 3-2. So, but yeah,
Yeah, no,
if
I
you were to
mean,
go 2-3, it would be you would have gone from what we thought was going to be like a 4-game, 3-game swing this week into a you being down one more loss. So
no, exactly. That's why. Like, obviously, I can come back, and it's who knows. I mean, next week could just I could go 4-1, you go 1-4, but it's a huge blow. And it was like you said, it was lining up for me to at least get a couple games back, and now it doesn't. We'll see if I get a game back. I mean, I may not, so we'll see.
yeah, but I guess we could bring up the 4 o'clock window. Is there any game you wanted to start with there?
Um, well, we kind of touched on two of them, but I we could start anywhere. It doesn't really matter to me.
Well, I guess we already talked Buffalo and Tampa. San Fran, Cincy, kind of already talked about, I guess.
Well, I guess do we want to? I mean, you mentioned Herbert earlier, but and I know they played the Giants, but do you have um any other thoughts about what you said about Herbert from our last episode?
I mean, listen, I'm still. I mean, I like Herbert. Don't get me wrong. But I've not changed any of my thoughts from the last episode. If you didn't watch the last episode, I like Herbert, but again, I like Burrow more. I this to me, this game. Listen, beating the Giants. I know I bet on the Giants plus 9.5, but this is not a game that shows to me that Herbert's going to be this natural born leader. I think leadership is something. Leadership, drive, passion for the game. That just trash talk mentality, that like Mamba mentality almost. That's I think kind of what I want to see from Herbert. That grittiness, that willingness to just if a ball's on the ground and you got to have it, jump on it instead of what Cam Newton did, which was kind of sidestep away from the ball. Just it's a Super Bowl. I know that it's not a Super Bowl, but I just that mentality when Brady threw a pick six in Super Bowl 51. Would Herbert be the type to make that dive, or would Herbert be the type to just kind of slowly stop running? I want to see that Mamba mentality from Herbert that I think I've seen from Burrow. I think I've seen it from Murray more than I've seen it from Herbert. To me, that's the one question that Herbert has. I guess it's almost the opposite of Mac Jones. With Mac Jones, the thing I haven't seen from Jones is what Herbert has, which is the physical attributes and the fat. And if it's 30-degree weather in the playoffs, Herbert's not going to have any problems throwing anywhere on the field, pretty much, unless it's like crazy weather, crazy weather. But Mac Jones, I mean, we have no proof that in 30-degree weather, even in like even just normal cold, not like crazy winds or anything, we have no evidence that he is ready to go in cold games. So yeah, I still have questions with Herbert, and so yeah, this game does not answer any questions. This just
Well, yeah.
affirms what I know about Herbert.
Yeah, when you were talking about like the leadership gritty aspect of it, it made me think of a former Chargers quarterback, Philip Rivers. I mean,
No, Philip Rivers did not have that. Philip Rivers did
well,
not have what I.
no, I never said the leadership part. I said, which I mean, you can debate that, but his his moxie, his confidence, his grittiness, his toughness, the trash talk aspect. I mean, that's exactly who Philip Rivers is.
Listen, he was a trash talker. He was gritty, but
I
he was
think he would
not a
do
winner.
anything. Yeah, but
I know that's one of the words
he
in sports people don't like, but
he may not be a winner because obviously look at the success of the team, but you can't say that he didn't do everything in his power to win the game.
sure.
It's not like he didn't leave everything out on the field. It's just that, and it could be two exact same quarterbacks who do the exact same thing. One leads to wins, one doesn't. I mean, it's just the way it works. So I think there's a difference, and I think if well, I don't know what well, I just think that Philip Rivers, clearly it doesn't seem like you love his I guess overall career as arc, but I think Herbert the way he is right now is fine, and if he were to turn into a Philip Rivers type grittiness toughness guy, I think it would make him easily just way better.
Sure. No, I would agree. I think he could use some of that vibrance or vibrancy or whatever, that grittiness and trash talking that Rivers had. I kind of get scared that Herbert could be headed down the Kawhi Leonard of NFL route, or like what happened to Carson Wentz, which is like just not really a natural born leader. Uh, Not that a Nick Foles situation would have happened to Herbert, but that Nick Foles situation happens to Wentz, and because he's already not really the leader of that Eagles team, the locker room problems come out. The coaches don't know which quarterback they want to go. Everybody's kind of split on it. You had to go with Wentz in that situation, anyways, which is why you did, which is why you did, and Foles goes off to Jacksonville there, but yeah, I would be scared that he ends up kind of like Carson Wentz, maybe not the Nick Foles situation, but just he just can't pull it all together like Mahomes was able to do. So yeah, I think and what would Herbert have to do to prove himself? To me, in this aspect, would probably be to do what Mahomes did, which was go on that run and win the Super Bowl. I mean, that's ultimately what would shut something like that up is winning.
Well, I don't know. I feel like that's a lot. Um, I
Maybe
think
not win the
if
Super Bowl, but a type of run where I would be fine saying I was wrong, or at least saying that my opinion has changed. Maybe it's not
well,
winning this. Maybe it's just getting to the AFC. Maybe it's just going on a little bit of a playoff run and having an insane playoff game where he comes back down from whatever and he's vibrant and he looks like he's gonna be leading this franchise for the next 15 years. And he's obviously gonna be leading this franchise for the next 10 years, no matter what, just because he's so talented. But he has to have the winning intangible thing and that grittiness and that trash talk, because you know the Los Angeles Chargers as a franchise do not have that grittiness that like other franchises have, that winning culture that like a Pittsburgh has, a Green Bay has, a New England has. So that would be my question, and I still have that question for Herbert, no doubt.
yeah, I mean, two things I would say about that. I mean, if one for him for a playoff success type story for him, I guess early in the career, like in this year, next year, it's even the next couple years, it's going to be tough because again, you're in a division with Mahomes, so you're almost not guaranteed, but you're almost always going to be a wild card team unless the team around him, because he's not as talented as Mahomes, he's just not, and I don't know if he ever will be, but he's close. but he's not that talented. So the team around him has to be a lot better for them to really get the top to be the top team in that division. So I think it's always gonna be tough for him in the playoffs because he's almost always gonna be looking at a wild card game. What obviously that means you're on the road. You're probably never having a home game. So I think it's tough. And two, I don't know if he's ever going to be a Brady guy where he's gonna rally the team. He's never going to be a Roethlisberger, have that toughness about him, where the team just knows that he's the leader. I think the team knows he's the leader, and he'll probably develop and evolve into that role as the years go by. But I think he's always going to be like a Rodgers type, where he may never get in your face like Rodgers does because Rodgers expects the best out of everyone, and maybe Herbert will get there when he's 30 plus. But I think he just has the cool mentality, and that the team just vibes off that mentality. So I think he's almost like a Rodgers type, not like a Brady Roethlisberger type mentality wise. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's
I think it's
fine.
a
And
horrible thing.
to me, I don't think it is. I don't because you may look at Rodgers and be like, yeah, he's kind of like out
He's a
of like
diva.
he is, but I don't know if Herbert's. I'm not saying Herbert's that. I'm saying I think he just has that cool mentality about him where he's relaxed and he's calm, but he's not a diva. I don't think you can say Herbert's a diva. I don't think he's shown anything that shows that he is a diva.
Well, okay. I think if he ended up having Rodgers' mentality or Rodgers, intangibles off the field or whatever, leadership qualities, I would consider that a disaster. And if you told me that was the case, if you're coming back time traveling, then if I was the Chargers GM, I would legitimately trade Herbert for. You would get a ton, right? Because he's the one player that would
I
get you so much, right? But I mean, listen, I know it's a hot take. I'm just, to me, there's a reason Rodgers only has one Super Bowl. If he had the same leadership qualities slash mentality or whatever you want to call it as Brady, Manning, both Mannings, Mahomes, Big Ben to a certain extent, Russell Wilson even maybe you could throw in there. Not maybe I don't know, maybe you don't throw Russell Wilson in there, but those guys that I mentioned before, Russell Wilson, Rodgers would probably to me have at least one more Super Bowl, probably two more Super Bowls. I 100% think there's a wear and tear to playing with Rodgers, and I know he's more talented than Brady probably, at least pure arm
definitely.
talent. But listen, there's just a bunch of intangibles that other quarterbacks do way better than Rodgers, and his arm talent and his talent in general makes up for it. But I think that's his biggest weakness by far, and what holds him back from being on that like top tier of quarterbacks. Because pure talent, until Mahomes is far into his career, pure talent he should be up there with probably, well, I guess boomers would say Dan Marino. And for me, it's pretty much no. He should be up there by himself all time, or I guess in my time, maybe you throw Brady on the same tier as talent or whatever. But yeah, I think yeah, yeah.
No, I think the what you said about them, like if you'd go back in time and trade him, I think that's ridiculous to be honest. Um, I I just you get a top five quarterback, generational talent like that. I don't care what his personality is, as long as he can play on the field and produce. Then you take that. You're not going to not take that, because you never know when you're going to find a top five quarterback. Again, Herbert's going to be a top five quarterback in the next couple years. So you never know when you're going to find one. You could ask the Bears, you could ask the Jets, you could ask Jacksonville. You could ask multiple teams about that. So I think that's a ridiculous take. Obviously, it's a take and it's your take, but I think it's a ridiculous take. But I mean, Rodgers. I think any team would love to have Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback for the 17 years he's been in the league. So I think any team would
A
take
lot of
Aaron
teams would.
Rodgers.
I know. I think a lot of teams would, and you're right about the whole like it's impossible to find a quarterback thing. But let's compare a team that's had trouble finding a quarterback. We'll just say, I don't know, the Ravens have had trouble finding a quarterback up until maybe Lamar, or maybe the Eagles, but they have the same amount of Super Bowls in the past decade as the Packers. So I don't know. Listen, I know it's tough to find a quarterback, but if you're telling me I could trade Herbert for literally the biggest trade package of all time, you're probably getting you're getting a team's draft for the next probably year, and then you're probably getting three or four more first rounders. Like, I mean, I don't know. You're getting so much capital for that, and I know it's tough to find a quarterback, but if you did tell me that Herbert is going to have a similar mentality to Aaron Rodgers and have the same type of rub off on the team and same type of, just whatever, then I'm almost going to be willing to guarantee that LA gets 0 Super Bowls out of Herbert's career. Because I don't think they're nearly as good of a franchise as the Packers. The Packers have had pretty decent rosters around them. It's no guarantee that the Chargers have that good of rosters around Herbert. And yeah, you're going to be with Mahomes for the next for pretty much all of Herbert's career. You're going to be playing against Mahomes. The Broncos are typically a good franchise. Historically, they're a good franchise. They're typically going to be there. And the Raiders, I mean, who knows? But that's a difficult division. Okay, I know the time travel things are relevant, and it's never going to happen. And to be clear, if I was the Chargers GM, since time travel, at least as of right now, is not confirmed to be real or be a thing at all, I would not be trading Herbert. But it's a take I'm putting on the table because I can never be proven wrong unless time travel becomes a thing in the next couple years, pretty much. But
No, I mean, I don't know. I don't think Herbert would ever. I don't think he's ever going to reach a Rodgers level. I don't think that's who Herbert is. I mean, all throughout college, his time in the NFL so far, he's just a quiet guy. So it doesn't mean he's diva or anything. I think he's just a quiet guy.
Well, you threw Rodgers in there, I guess, is why I kind of took that. But
well, yeah, no, I threw Rodgers in there more so because like when he's out there, he's relaxed and he's calm and he's just like he just makes plays and does you just watch Rodgers and you have a sense of calmness about you when you watch him. And I think that's what you probably feel when you watch Herbert. You just already in his second year. I feel like when you watch him, it's just he's going to make the play. You know that he's not going to panic or do something stupid, and I think that's just a good trait to have. When he's 23 years old, however old he is. So. Yeah, I mean, it's a good discussion to have on Herbert, and it's going to be something that, again, he's going to be here for the next 10, 15, 20 years. So it's going to be a topic of conversation throughout his career, and we'll see. I think the biggest thing for him is the team they put around him. Because, again, I don't think he's ever going to have Mahomes, Rodgers talent level. I think it'll be close, but you need a good team around him. Again, we see it with Rodgers. You could say they've had good teams in the past, and they have, but they haven't been as good as other championship teams during that era. And you can maybe debate that, but I don't think you can. The defenses have never been there for him until the last couple of years now. But again, now he's 38 years old. So the times could have been shifted on that. Rodgers may have another Super Bowl. And again, he maybe could have 2014. I know technically he blew the lead, but if they just pick up that onside kick, they're in the Super Bowl, and then who knows what happens.
They're not
so
winning
there's
that Super
definitely.
Bowl. I'm biased,
again,
but they're not winning that Super Bowl.
Again, you could say that, and again, they probably wouldn't because that Patriots team was obviously one of the better Patriots teams that we've seen. But you never know. I mean, you get into the game, Rodgers makes plays. Again, he won MVP that year, 2014. So I think he threw 3 interceptions that year as well. You just never know what happens. Do I think they would have won that game? Probably not. But again, you just don't know until you get into the game. But even if it wasn't that year, maybe it was another year. So it's a whole back and forth thing. It's in the past, like you said. Obviously, time travel is not real, so you can't change anything. But I think Rodgers. We'll see what happens when he retires. I'll be very curious to see when he retires and he's not playing anymore. What the thought process is on Aaron Rodgers for his career.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see that too. It's going to depend on how many Super Bowls he has when he retires. This is a year where, listen, he pretty much. We may not think that the Packers have the best roster, but there are more than enough people that have said the Packers are the best team in the NFL for me to say that he has no excuse to lose in the NFC Championship this year. His team is plenty good enough this year to win a Super Bowl, and would he have to play a top 3 or maybe even the best quarterback in the NFL to do it? Yeah, but I mean that's just what that's the best. The teams that win the Super Bowl, that's your quarterback does play like the best quarterback in the league. So,
yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think it comes down to Packers Bucks again. If the Packers have home field, you're right. There's no excuse for them not to win if they have home field. If they're on the road, obviously there is an excuse, and I think it would be a lot tougher. But if they're home and
if they're home, there is no excuse to.
No, and even if it's not the Bucks, it's way less of an excuse if it's not the Bucks because you should beat any other team that's not the Bucks. But
there was no excuse last year, to be honest. There's
Um,
no excuse. Listen, I'm not saying he should have like. I'm not hammering him for losing this one specific year, but I'm just saying like there was no excuse last year that was like, all right, I'm giving you a pass. Like, obviously, I'm not gonna, whatever. I just,
no, last year was definitely not. It wasn't inexcusable. It wasn't excusable. I think it was somewhere in the middle. Like this year would be totally inexcusable. But the defense last year. I mean, they showed the stats earlier in the game tonight. The defense this year is a top five defense. Even if you don't really think it is, by the stats it is. Last year it wasn't.
I
We
mean,
saw it on the Scotty
what's
Miller
that
play. The
different?
defense.
But
What?
oh, I was gonna say, what's that different between the defenses between this year and? I mean, obviously they're playing better this year, but I'm just on paper,
Well,
I don't see there being that much of a
Well, they have a new
difference. And
defensive coordinator. I think that plays a difference. I see with my own team. I mean, Dan Quinn comes in. I know we get Micah Parsons and everything, but if Dan Quinn isn't our defensive coordinator this year, I don't think our defense is as good as it is with him if he wasn't there. So I think it matters a little bit scheme wise, just personnel wise, locker room wise. I think it matters. I think Mike Pettin was their guy the last couple of years. Now it's Joe Barry, I think his name is. So I think it makes a little bit of a difference, and we'll see. Maybe when the playoffs come again, it doesn't matter. But if you look at the Scotty Miller touchdown last year, I mean that's all defense. I mean, right at the end of the half, you give up a 45-yard touchdown. That was a huge play in the game. I mean, you lost by I forget the exact score, but you lost by a possession. That's a huge play right there. So I think it matters a little bit, and we'll see. We'll see in 1 month. We'll see. Or a month and a little bit. We'll see what the case is, assuming that it's the Packers, and then most likely the Bucks. But I guess who knows?
it's a valid point. I mean, it matters, but we could theoretically go through every single quarterback and say the defense gave up this play because of this specific play call, and I mean, I think you could make excuses like that for every single quarterback on every single playoff run, but yeah.
Yeah. But that Packers the real game against the Bears. They got another field goal, so 38-27. That game's towards the end of the third quarter there, but that that was basically about it. One thing, it was from the Thursday night game. So Vikings beat the Steelers 36-28, but did you have any any thoughts about Claypool and what happened on basically the last play of the game when he was celebrating the first down?
If if the Steelers were a team that was for sure out of playoff contention, I would bench him for the rest of the year. Obviously, they're still in playoff contention, so you can't really do that. But it's an inexcusable play. It's an inexcusable action, I guess, not play, but it's just listen. It's so Steelers. It's so Juju Smith's disciple. Uh, if you just cut it out, like get rid of it. I don't why. It's if that happened on
Recording
the
stopped.
Patriots, then I don't know. It's bad. So
No, yeah, that was, and again, they're getting another play if he just catches the ball and puts it straight to the line of scrimmage, but it's absolutely inexcusable. You're right. If they're on if they're the Jaguars, I mean, if they're the Jaguars record, yeah, he's probably getting benched. I mean, he basically did get benched. I think last week it was, or maybe it was even that game, whatever it was. He did get benched. So who knows what's going to happen with him? He had a great year last year, but honestly, he's been pretty much just nothing this year, and he's been more of a problem than anything. So we'll see about that. But yeah, the Steelers, I guess that was a Thursday night game. We didn't really get a chance to talk about it. They're 6-6-1. They're probably done. They're for sure done, I should say. Vikings 6-7, maybe have a chance, but it's. I guess the NFC, you still have a chance technically. I mean, right now in the playoffs for the NFC, looking at the wild card teams, obviously, Rams are going to be there. That's no question. San Francisco, huge win. I mean, if they lose that game, they're 6-7. They can at least get a game buffer off Washington, so they're the 6th seed, 7-6. Then you have Washington, Minnesota, Philly, and Atlanta. And I guess New Orleans is there, but they're not a good team. Same with Atlanta. But yeah, it was a huge win for Minnesota. Washington still is obviously still in the wild card. Philly's still in the wild card, which is pretty surprising. But yeah, whoever gets that final seed, if it's Minnesota, Washington, or Philly, and they have to play most likely Tampa, probably Green Bay, either of the two, it's going to be a blowout in my opinion. I don't see any of those teams. Maybe Minnesota against Green Bay because of division, but I think it's a blowout, no matter who plays what team for that 7-2 seed.
Yeah. I guess my take would be, let's just say the 17 in the NFC is the same thing as the 17 in the NFC last year, which is essentially just a team that doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs, like the Bears did not last year, and whichever team makes it this year may also clearly not be able to earn their spot or to truly deserve it. Who was the 7 seed in the AFC last year? Do you
7
remember?
seed in the AFC last year was
It wasn't the Colts. I think Bills were 3 seed. I want to say
was it the Was it the Steelers? No, not the Steelers. Was it the
AFC
Browns? Not the Browns. I don't think.
AFC standings. No, I don't, maybe it was the Colts.
It was the. I just had it and I lost it. But that's not showing me exactly what I want to see.
I think it was the Colts.
The Colts were 11-5.
It was either the Ravens, Browns, or Colts.
I think it may have been the Colts.
Who played the Titans? The Ravens?
The Ravens.
It was
the Ravens. The Ravens snuck in as the 7th seed. That's exactly what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so maybe not the Ravens. Maybe the Ravens are the exception, but at least in the NFC, if let's just say it's the Vikings and they get blown out in the first round by the Bucks, then I don't know. You look at the addition of the 7th seed or the third wildcard team, and you could say has not been a good addition. Now I'll take all the playoff football I can get, and even if a game's not super exciting all the way down to the wire, NFL football, especially in the playoffs, is still great content to me. But I mean, we could get to a territory eventually, unless we start getting teams like the Ravens last year sneaking in as a 7 seed. You could start to get to the point where you say the 7 seed isn't really necessary and there was not really much of a point. But
I mean, the only thing is that money-wise, they would just never take away a playoff game. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying for sure. I mean, like the 7th seed, again, unless you have a Ravens like last year, where they struggled so much out of the gate. I think they had to win like 5 or 6 straight at the end of the season to get to the playoffs. If you're really not going to have a team like that, most likely you're going to have a Washington who some games can beat you, but other games you look at today, they just get absolutely demolished until the end. But the game was over from the first quarter. So yeah, I think for sure that you're going to have a lot of years where, assuming they keep this, where that's 2-7 game is just going to be a blowout. It's just that's going to be the case most likely almost every single year.
Yeah, essentially, our evidence as to what you need for the 7 seed to not be a blowout, 2 versus 7 to not be a blowout is you need a 10-6 team. Well, I guess now would be an 11-6 team to not make the playoffs. You need an 11-5 quality team at the 7 seed for it to be like a legit worthwhile game. That's what we got last year in the AFC. This year in both conferences, we're probably not getting that. We're probably getting a 10-6 or 9-8 team in the AFC, and probably an 8-9 or 9-8 team in the NFC. And it could get real ugly for the 2 versus 7 seed in games in both conferences this year.
Yeah, at least the AFC 2-7 game is going to be competitive, unless it's the Chiefs as the 2 seed, and maybe right now technically it'd be Buffalo, even though Tennessee's the 2 seed. It would be a way more competitive game than the NFC for sure. But at least the AFC, it's the teams that are in the playoffs right now, they at least deserve to be in they're like playoff teams. While if you look at the NFC, either the last 2 teams, and even San Francisco, they probably are a playoff team, but they really don't play like one. And then obviously Washington, Minnesota, Philly, those aren't playoff teams, in normal years. So, I see exactly what you're saying.
One question, and we're going to wrap this up quick. I mean, we have nothing else to talk about, but gut feeling on Buffalo in or out of the playoffs this season.
Yeah. So 3 other 4. We talked about this before on the last episode, but 3 other next 4 games are teams that they should beat. Obviously, the one exception is the Patriots game, which that's probably a loss, but who knows? It's probably a loss. But you play the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Jets. The Falcons could be a tough game, but you're at home. I would assume, obviously, Matt Ryan's not going to be as good in January 2nd in Buffalo. So you should go at least 3-1. That puts you at 10-7. I mean, that should put you in the playoffs, in my opinion. I mean, you'd be fighting with the Bengals, The Chargers would still be there technically. The Colts you'd be fighting. The Cleveland you'd be fighting as well. They're better than Cleveland in my opinion. They're better than Cincy in my opinion. So that leaves them with at least the seventh seed. So yeah, I would say they should make the playoffs.
Yeah, I would agree. And I guess one last thing before we wrap this up is, so it's my bye week as a Patriots fan, and one thing I think the NFL should implement for future years is a second bye week for teams. So we would, instead of having 18 weeks now, we'd have 19 weeks, and it would kind of even out the playing field on buys because it doesn't mean this doesn't mean the end of your season or anything, but you're at a disadvantage if your bye week is in week 4 versus week 12
Yeah.
or 11. Like I give me the latest bye possible, at least a later bye. uh, Week 4 buys are so bad, and if we were able to implement the two buys per team, I'm not sure in the exact system to kind of equal it out so everyone has like a fair buy or a fair couple buys. But there's a clear way to do it. Whether it's like if you do get a week 4 buy, well then your second buy you get a more favorable week. Which week would that be? I don't know, but it would make it way less significant what your first buy is because even if you have a week 4 buy, well you still have a week 13 buy, so you still get your break and you still get your 2 breaks. So I would like that, and I think with all the injuries we've been seeing, Ravens, Bills, those are the 2 teams I think off the top of my head. But there's so many injuries this year in the NFL. Like teams would 100% make use out of another bye, and honestly, for a fan of a team, and a fan of the NFL, like a bye week's not that bad. It allows you to just more easily observe all the other teams in the NFL because the reality
Yeah.
is red zone's nice, right? But first off, not everybody watches red zone. Second off, but even if you do watch red zone, it's red zone. It's not like you're able to sit down in front of the TV and watch your team play, and you're not going to be able to watch beginning to end. You're still going to miss plays in red zone. You're missing a bunch of plays in red zone, especially like in the 1 o'clock windows. But yeah, I think a second bye would make the content better. You'd get another week of football technically. And bye weeks aren't that bad if you're a fan of the NFL. So, and it's good for the players too. So
Yeah, I think when they go to an 18 game schedule, which that's probably happening in the next couple of years, maybe I guess when the next CBA happens, I guess what 10 years or whatever. But when they go to 18 games, I think for sure there will be 2 bye weeks. You just need it in 18 games. I mean, it just if you have this amount of injuries in 16 games, now 17 games, you just need 2 bye weeks. So you have to see how you do that. I mean, obviously you'd want it to be one early, then one later, so you'd have to figure it all out because you can't screw one team over. So. I don't know. They had to figure it out, but I yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, having a bye week is good. I mean, one, your team gets the rest, get players back, which it seems like you almost always get like one key player back during a bye week. And then yeah, you get to watch other teams play. It is fun not having a stressful week when you're thinking about your team playing. You could just relax knowing that your team. It doesn't matter what your team does because they can't win, they can't lose. So I do like bye weeks. I will say.
yeah, I think it's a win-win I think it's a win-win-win across the board. So, but that's pretty much it for this episode. I guess we'll get back to watching the rest of the Sunday night game. So we'll see what happens there. Appreciate everybody who stayed to the end of the video. As always, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Brandon, anything else?
Ooh, I don't think so. I think that was probably it. Yeah, just another week in the NFL.
All right, we'll be back Wednesday probably. So
Wednesday or
goodbye.
Thursday, one of
Yeah,
those
goodbye
two.
until one of those days.